We've all seen data tables before, but what is the proper way to use them? Well, according to Material, data tables are meant to show lots of data in a format that's easy to scan, identify patterns, and draw conclusions. You can use additional tools to help visualize data, such as filters and sorting, and these tools should be available on top or bottom of the data table. Data should always be presented and organized in a sort order that's obvious to the user. Don't create a table with only two columns. There are other ways to show key value relationships than a data table. If your table allows multi-selection, use a checkbox in the first column. If your users can drill into data, it's good practice to highlight the row on hover. Let's add a data table to our orders application. In Visual Studio Code, let's go ahead and Command P and open the orders.module.ts file, and we're going to go ahead and import what we need for our data table. On line 15, let's import the mat table module from @Angular material table. And let's go ahead and right above this, let's copy this line and add it again above. And now we need to add the mat sort module, which is going to give us the ability to add sorting to our table. And that would be client-side sorting. And now if I scroll down to the imports, I'm going to go to line 31, and let's go ahead and add the mat table module here. And just above this on line 31, we'll add the mat sort module. Now that we've done that, we can go ahead and add the table to our component. And now, since we're working with data tables, we need to create some data. So let's Command P and let's go to the order list component.ts file. And we're going to import some stuff here. So on line 2, let's go ahead and import the mat sort as well as the mat table data source from @Angular material. And then let's go ahead and create a const on line 4, and we'll just call this element data. And I'm going to make an array here, and we're not going to use a special type, but you might want to actually create a class to represent this. And I'm going to create some data. So we'll have an order date, which is new date, an order number, which is 100, a total, which is $29.99, a description, which we'll just put 2 pounds of tuna, and is checked false. We'll just initialize that. And I'll take this, and I'm going to just go ahead and copy and make 2 more of these so we have some data here. And I'll just go ahead and change the order numbers. We'll make this 101, 102. I'll change the prices on line 15. And then I'm going to change the description. And I don't want these to be in order, so I want to be able to make them so they're different so I can sort in different ways. Now that I've done that, I need to create an array for the displayed column. So I'm going to scroll down back to our order list component class. Let's go ahead and make an array here called displayed columns, and I'll make a string array. And we're going to go ahead and put our columns here. So I'm going to use actions. That's going to be our checkbox column, order number, order date, description, and total. And I'm going to go ahead and create a data source below this, and we're going to initialize that as a mat table data source. And we'll pass in our element data there. And then the next thing I want to do is in the ng on init, I want to initialize this.datasource.sort equals this.sort. And I'm going to go ahead and need to create that sort as well. So on line 37, I'm going to create a view child called mat sort, which is a mat sort. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and return to the HTML and add the elements we need for our data table. Let's Command P and go to our order list component.html. And you see here on line 3, we have a paragraph that says eager fetched. Let's just go ahead and clear that out completely. And let's go ahead and add a couple items inside this tab. I'm going to add a order actions div. I'm going to add a order container div as well, and that's where we're going to put our table. So let's go ahead and create a table element inside of here, just an HTML table with the mat table directive, and we'll assign the data source equal to our data source. I'm going to add the mat sort directive and the multi-template data rows directive because we want to have hovering eventually. And now I need to create some containers for our actual column. So let's go ahead and create an ng container. And I'm going to create a mat column definition for this, and we'll call it action. And since we have 5 columns, we'll go ahead and copy this and make this 4 more times. And I can Command P, format document, to clean that up. Now let's go up to the first one, action. Let's go ahead and add a TH element, which is our header. And I'll use the mat header cell directive. This is the mat header cell definition. Mat checkbox, I'm going to put that checkbox in that first column. And on change, we're going to go ahead and call something called select all. And then below that, I'm going to go ahead and create the cell template. We'll use the mat cell directive there for that first column. And we'll give this a name. This is going to come from element, which is going to be the iteration of everything inside that data collection. And let's go ahead and put a mat checkbox in here as well. And we'll set the state of this checkbox to element.isChecked. And lastly, I want to create a footer template as well. So we'll go ahead and create a mat footer cell. And I'll use the mat footer cell def directive here. We'll save that. Now I'm back into the next columns. We actually want to show some data now. So I'm going to go ahead and copy our header cells, and let's paste this down here into lines 19 through 25. And now we're going to change the way this works. Now I don't want to have a checkbox as the header. I actually want to have a header. So we're going to go ahead and change the way this works now. So let's add the mat sort header attribute to this TH, and I'm going to call this order number. I'll clean this up a little bit. And now we're going to change the way that the element works. Instead of a checkbox, we're just going to display element.orderNumber. And I don't want to have anything in the footer for this one. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up, format document, and I'll copy all the inside here. And we're going to go ahead and do that again below. And we're going to change this column definition here, actually on line 18, that should say order number. And the next one down is going to be our order date. So we're going to just call this the date of the order. And we're going to change the way this displays. So instead, we're going to do element.orderDate, and we're going to pipe this into date to give me a better looking date. I don't want to show the raw time or anything. And now I'm going to go ahead and copy this from line 27 to 31. We'll paste this into the next column, which we're going to call description. And I can go ahead and get rid of the piping into the date and just put description there. I'll change the header on line 36 to description. I'll copy this again, the inside contents, paste this into the next column. And this is going to be our total column. And I'm going to go ahead and use the total here, and I'm going to pipe this into currency to give us some good formatting. And eventually I'm going to want to show a actual total, a grand total down here. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and put $100 until we actually wire that up so it works. So now just below the ng container here, I'm going to go ahead and add a couple rows here. So let's go ahead and create 3 rows. These are going to be for our footers. And we're going to say this is the mat header row def equals. And I'm going to use displayed columns sticky true. And then next I'm going to create the basic row template, mat row def equals let row. And then I'm going to say columns dot displayed columns, which is going to grab those columns that we defined earlier. And I'm going to create a mat footer row definition equals displayed columns. Use a semicolon there, sticky equals true. And I'm just going to look at this and see if I like the way it looks. And I think we're good. I'm at a semicolon there on line 52, as well as line 51 and 53. So we have sticky equals true, columns equals display columns. Okay, sounds good. Let's go ahead and save this. And let's see what we need to do. We'll probably have a couple things to fix. Okay, and everything compiles well, so that's good. Let's go to Chrome and let's just refresh that page. And we've got some errors. That's what we thought we might have. So let's go look at the console and figure those out. Matte checkbox, I have not imported that. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code, Command P, and let's go to the orders.module, and we're going to import that checkbox component. So that's going to be right here. Import matte checkbox module from @Angular material checkbox on line 12. I'll copy that, go down to our imports, and we'll put it in order on line 29. Save that. Refresh the page. And let's return now to the orders page. And it looks like we've got another error. So let's see what our next error is. I have a duplicate column definition action. So let's fix that. Let's go back to our HTML. And you see here, I did not change this to total. And let's see if there's any other duplicates. I think we're good. Save that. Refresh the page. And column with ID actions. And let's go back to our orders list component. I think I misnamed this actions. It should be action singular. And now we have a table. Okay, well, we have something here. It needs a little bit of styling, needs a little bit of work, but let's clean that up and we'll make it look better. To give our table the look we want it to have, we're going to Command P and go to styles.css. And just below the example tooltip, we're going to go ahead and add a new definition for the table element, which should be width 100%. And I'm going to go ahead and add some styling for some of the columns and rows. So my sortable header, we want that to be black. My matte footer row, we want that to be bold. Our matte table sticky class, we want to have a border of E0, E0, E0. And we want to add some hover colors. So on hover of our rows, we're going to go ahead and highlight those with F5. And we'll copy that down to line 31 and we'll say when the row is active, which means selected, we'll want it to be EF, EF, EF. We'll save that. Let's go back and refresh the page. And you see our table looks much better now. Well, what about these columns? Notice my descriptions. I can sort now. This is a client-side sort. I can sort on the prices as well. So it's coming together pretty well. What we don't have yet are actions, and I don't have the select all working yet. But I have a table now with client-side sorting, and I have a footer row that's sticky on the bottom. Well, let's go ahead and add a little bit more functionality to make this table even better. Returning to Visual Studio Code, let's Command P and open the order list component.html. And let's find that order actions div that we created before. And let's create some buttons in here. These will be actions on these tables. We're going to use the matte button directive and we'll say that the color is primary and we're going to make it delete. I will copy this, put one more below it, and we will call this one archive. And the purpose here is to show how we might put multi-select actions on a table. Now, remember I put the select all code here. Well, that actually doesn't do anything yet because we never implemented it. So let's go ahead and go to the Command P order list component.ts. Let's make that little function here. So now I will say select all, 145, and I'll say for var elm of element data. I'm going to set the is checked property equal to the opposite of whatever it's currently set to. So that will just work like a big toggle. We'll just set everything on and I'll set everything off. And we'll save that. And now I need to go back to order list component and actually bind those checkboxes to that property. So right now I'm checked, element is checked, and I may already have done it. So let's go ahead and look at the page and see how it works. There we go. I can check and I can unselect everything and I can delete this whole section if I want or archive these rows. And it's really clear to my users how that should work. Now, obviously this isn't exactly how you'd implement this because I can create some weird scenarios where these numbers are not going to work out correctly, but you see how to apply actions here. So let's go ahead and do one more thing here. Let's Command P to the order list component style sheet. And let's add one little bit of flair just to make this look really good. And then we're going to walk away from it. Order actions. And I want to add another class called order container. And notice there's a dot because these are classes. So the margin top on my actions is going to be 20 pixels. And I want to set an overflow container of auto. And I want to set a height of my container to 400 pixels. If I save this and I go back to my order list component.ts, let's just copy our data and let's just duplicate it. So we have lots of data to show here. So I'm going to copy from lines 5 all the way down to lines 25, and we'll paste that in there. We'll save. I'll go back to the application. And now I actually have a lot more data showing up in here. And if I were to shrink this down a little bit, I can actually, let's get some even more data. Let's copy that again. I've actually got a fixed bottom and top row. You see how the $100 stays fixed and the top stays fixed as well. And I can highlight and I can delete everything if I want to, or I can change those actions to be however I want to work with my data.